We're not big, we're big deals. Nobody's as big as you need to be, but you're a big deal. And healthy shame allows you to face that you're a big deal. Now, how's that? When a baby's born, do you understand what a big deal this baby thinks he or she is? I'll get you up anytime I want to at night. In fact, I'm going to use the bathroom in my pants. And you get over here and take care of it because my hands don't do that yet. I want to eat. I want to eat now. They cry, they poop, they pee, and they think it's just the greatest thing in the world. And do you understand that a baby gives nothing? They can't do anything for you. They don't pay rent. And yet they're attributed with this unbelievable worth. But I want you to know that that neediness grows up but doesn't change. That neediness grows up but doesn't become someone else. You're never going to lose that. And that sense of that dependency, that child recognizes, I'm a big deal, but I'm not big. I have humility, but my humility does not take away how I'm made. To live fully, love deeply, and lead well. I'm made for a mission called growing up and living. Roots to fruits, like we talked about earlier in the very beginning. So this is humility that takes us to God's availability and also others' mercy and care and goodness and sharing. The way a marriage works, ultimately, everybody being 100% in. I need you, you need me. I don't have all the answers, you don't either, but let's go get them. I'm not God, and you aren't either, but we're in need of God. You see that? It's amazing. Now, toxic shame, I'm going to come back over just a minute. But toxic shame is contempt towards myself for being human. Ashamed, which means I do not have shame. It means I'm not human. I'm not like this. I don't feel the feelings others feel or shouldn't. I don't have the needs that others have or shouldn't. Ashamed is this: when I look into the mirror and claim who God made me, a voice comes back and says, oh, really? You know, what you really are is inadequate. If anybody really got to know you, do you know what they're going to think? They're going to think disgust, rejection. They're going to see you as incompetent, inadequate, disgusting, sickening. And where I come from, if somebody's sorry, it's just sorry. If somebody's sorry, they've already been, that's already a declaration of the next generation being just like them. If you're that way, nothing's going to change. So toxic shame about having shame, toxic shame about being dependent and needy and human becomes, oh, I can't be loved or matter or belong unless I become someone else. I've got to change and become someone else. Way against Jesus in Matthew 18:2-3, Jesus clearly says, he brings a child. He said, who's the greatest among us? He says, hey, just bring him in, that child, please. There's a child standing right here with Jesus. And he says, unless you change and become like one of these, you can't enter the kingdom of heaven. So change to Jesus is returning to how you're made and facing your neediness so he can do for you what you'll never be able to do for yourself. Become who you're made to be. Change and become. But no, not us. As soon as we get enough rejection, enough feedback from people around us that how you're made is wrong, because we need to be loved so much, we'll try to change ourselves into something we'll never be. If you tell a fish to climb a tree and convince that the fish is made to climb a tree, the fish will try to climb a tree and for every single day always feel like it is a failure. It's not a failure, it's a fish. It needs water. Humans need certain foods to be vibrantly alive to who they're made to be. But toxic shame makes us try to become somebody we're not. I got to be perfect. I should be caring all the time. I should be stronger than I am. I should be this, I should be that. I should be this, I should be that. And I want you to hear the word. The key word for toxic shame, should. Should. Shame. Should have already mastered everything. Somewhere in your lives, you became toxically contemptuous toward yourself for outright needing attention, which we'll talk about in a little while in terms of needs. Somewhere in your life, you became ashamed of asking questions because you said, I should already know that. You get what I'm saying? Somewhere in your life, if you had tears, you started to apologize. You cried, you said, I'm sorry. If you had tears, you ranked yourself as somehow no longer fit for the team. And in God's economy, and in God's environment, and in God's ship of fellowship, without the tears, you're not going to make it. Without the neediness, nobody's running the ship. And it goes on and on and on. So toxic shame is contempt towards myself for how I am created. Now, here's the tough part. If that's not tough enough, toxic shame makes you become a false self. I got to get rid of me and become who people are expecting. I got to get rid of me and become who God's looking for. I got to become God's man. What was amazing was David was called a man after God's own heart because he could never make his heart run far enough away from God to disappear completely. He kept coming back going, here I am, a man after God's own heart. David never became perfect. He just became David. And that David just happened to be a king. Little runt became a king. The disciples became apostles. The apostles spread something around the world in God's presence and power. So toxic shame becomes not only a hatred towards how I'm made as a feeling, needing, desiring, longing, hoping creature. Toxic shame is where we get despising of hope. Hey, look, man, if you want to be successful in life, don't get your hopes up. And that way you're not going to be disappointed. And people aren't going to be disappointed in you. Lower your expectations. Don't think related to God can do more than you ever ask or imagine. That's just poetry. You didn't mean it. So just get it down. Get it down. And that way you won't have to grieve or feel or need or be dependent. And then finally, toxic shame not only makes us have contempt towards ourselves for being human and believe we have to become somebody else to be okay, it also makes us have contempt towards God. He made us like this. So not only do we get rid of ourselves, guys, a lot of ways, we get rid of God. And we invent a God that we have to perform for instead of be ourselves before. Does that make some sense? So it's not just rejection of me, it's rejection of how I'm made. And therefore, who made me? So once our healthy shame is gone, our capacity to be present in the presence of God and others is also gone because we're always looking. See, my brain, somewhere early in my life, I started looking at people from the standpoint of, what are you thinking about me? And what are you going to do with what you just thought about me? Because I know whatever you thought about me is not good. And I'm going, what do I need to do? What do I need to do? And that comes in all kinds of packages, from the super performer to the scared little, mouse of a person. It doesn't matter. It's still the same thing. What do you think of me? And then on some level, I've got to get your approval instead of pay attention to what I'm called to do and called to be like. So it gets destroyed ministries like crazy. But guys, if I could, and you won't be able to do this, God has to do this for you. If you could take the word should out of your living, you would be so much freer to be in the presence of each other and God than you can imagine. Should. The word should. Should and toxic shame are almost synonyms. And think how often we should on ourselves. It's just like, all the time. Should on you, should on me. It's like, it's just terrible. Nobody wants to be should on. So if I smile, it'll look like I'm really being serious and just making a mistake by saying it. But you get it. Should and shame. Okay, and toxic shame becomes a form of performance, always performing 24/7, 365. Go, 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 go. If you're going to be successful, go. And you're always on the verge of, I can't do anymore. So it becomes tiring. Perform and tired. And then pride. And pride. And pride. And it's all, listen, please do this. This is not for you to condemn. This is a person trying to do everything they can to save their lives. Toxic shame is not a badness. It's a survival skill. Resentment's not a badness. It's survival. See, because if people see these and know these, they will reject me. I'm made for relationship. I'm made for fellowship. And if I can't belong with you, the message is, who do I need to become so I can? The need for relationship is more powerful than anything else we've been created like. We're never going to get over that. We need to get good at it. Okay, and then finally, prideful people, worn out, performing, torn up, finally get tired and find some kind of relief in being isolated. I need to find some place to get away from me because I'll never become who I'm made to be. I'm sick of me. There was a point in high school and very early in college, I found out that working out, exercise, could take me a long way away from feeling ashamed. The farther I ran, the more I ran, the better I got. At one point, I ran 700 and something days in a row. I remember coming in the house one time, my hands were frostbitten because I had to do it. Because if I didn't do it, I felt so scared and terrible about myself that I just wanted to not be here. Isn't that crazy? No, that's survival. Whatever I have to do to not be needy and to not feel these things, I'm doing. So toxic shame becomes, I've got to do it. It's compulsion. And ultimately, it's compulsion to isolate, to not be known, which goes against everything God made us like. Good things happen to known people. Toxic shame, bad things happen to known people. Okay? So anytime you're in the bad things happen to known people and the negativity of being human, then you're not on the side you need to be on for your own benefit. And it's very, very painful and difficult, but we need to do it. Be ourselves. So, isolation versus humility. And it's okay to ask people if they love you. It's a terrible thing to demand that people love you. It's important for you to be able to call someone that you know is your peer and say, hey man, I was just calling to say, not say, frankly, I was calling to kind of ask, I just need you to tell me you love me. Will you tell me? Yeah, man, I love you. Great, thanks, bye. Yes. Kids do it, children do it. Change and become like one of these. Yeah. And that will encourage us to press on. Yeah, I love you. Of course I love you. What do you love about me? Well, I just love that you just asked that question. And frankly, the more you're yourself, the more I'm attracted to you. That's that human thing. The more we tell the truth about ourselves, anybody else who knows they're human tends to go. When you and I were talking earlier about hurt, you and I were, hey, he's like me and I'm like him, and he gets me and I get him. And maybe you and I could sit down and talk more. And before I know it, I may call and say, hey man, would you help me with something? Sure, man. If I get a chance, I'll be over there. Something. Man, Sam, thank you for helping me with that. Hey, Sam, I just call him. You love me? Say, yeah, man, I love you. Say, okay, thanks, Sam. That's a good thing. Is it not? Can you feel it? Do you feel it's a good thing? Is it a scary thing? Is it something we have a real tendency not to do because we shouldn't? Because how it's going to look and what people are going to think. And all of a sudden, I'm not on the team because I asked if I was loved. Jesus did it.